in the gym. Yeah, we've been in the gym. Focused on the win. What you say, boy? Come again. I like we ain't poppin'. Ayy, who won't stop us now?
Good morning, everybody. Welcome into First Take. I love that song. Thank you so much for joining us. Your guy, Stephen A. Smith. Good morning, Max Kellerman. Thank you so much for being with us. Fellas, we are starting with America's team and America's quarterback. Here's the deal. Let's get right to it. So police in suburban Dallas received a report of a potential party at Dallas Cowboy quarterback Dak Prescott's house on Friday night, but could not verify a party was taking place, nor that coronavirus guidelines weren't being followed upon arrival. This comes in the wake of TMZ posting pictures and video that it says were from the alleged party at Prescott's house with Zeke Elliott among the guests that at least appear to violate Texas Governor Greg Abbott's executive order that all people in the state shall avoid gatherings or groups of people more than the number 10. Stephen A., if the details in the TMZ report are true, and again, police did not confirm this, what's your reaction?
Stupidity, and they deserve to be insulted for it. I'm incredibly disappointed in Dak Prescott, and here's the reason why. We are in a situation, we're in a national crisis right now, a global crisis, to be quite honest with you. A whole bunch of people are dealing with this. You have executive orders from the governor. I understand that it may not have been 30, as some people have reported. It may have been 10 or whatever the case may be. But if you're Dak Prescott, who's obviously vying to be arguably the highest paid player in football and what have you, and you see what sports leagues are having to deal with at this particular moment in time, why would you put yourself in a situation like that to have headlines like that being circulated all over the place? Why would you do that? The National Football League obviously hasn't been drastically affected in terms of games themselves because this all happened during their offseason. The draft is going to be affected. The NFL is going to lose money because of that. Obviously, the networks publicizing it like us, ESPN, is going to lose money because of that. We get all of that. But in terms of optics, when you look at Major League Baseball, when you look at the NBA and other sports leagues and the challenges that they're being faced with, you look at ESPN ultimately imploring Dana White and the UFC to postpone their event because you want to adhere to the social distancing mandate that has come down from our government officials. When you have a football player that's out there, it gives the impression that he's tone deaf, which ultimately forces others to think, as a league, you might be tone deaf moving forward with a lot of different things. And those are the kind of things that can ultimately derail the prospects that you're hoping to have moving forward of having a season and engaging to something close to normalcy. Max, myself, and others, we obviously know that's a very daunting task, to say the least. It's probably not going to happen. As Max has religiously said, let's be responsible. Let's make sure that we're putting the right level of information out there and we are disseminating the right message as it pertains to the importance of social distancing, upgrading tests, expediting that process, ultimately finding a vaccine. We get all of that. But as a player, understanding the multitude of challenges that are out there for all of us right now, to engage in that kind of social gathering at a time like this is the height of stupidity, which I never would have associated Dak Prescott with under any circumstances. And it's incredibly disappointing that he wasn't sensitive enough to recognize that now is not the time for stuff like that. Because if you are a football player, if you're in the public eye, you have a whole bunch of idiots out here having coronavirus parties and all of this other nonsense. How is this going to dissuade them? It's going to contribute to elevating that level of stupidity. And I thought that he should have been more responsible in terms of taking all of that into account before he even thought about doing something like that. And once again, when we talk about stupidity, when we talk about doing things that are foolhardy, somehow, some way, Ezekiel Elliott ends up in a picture as well, albeit to no fault of his own. Bottom line is, or the minimal fault of his own, he's still in the picture. I'm so surprised. I'm so surprised.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you here, Stephen A. Like, this is a debate show, but sometimes we're just on the same page about it. I'm trying to think of why they would have a get-together. unless someone is misinformed or else not smart enough to understand the seriousness of the situation and thinks that large social gatherings are okay. And look, I know we're like counting the French fries, right? How many people does that feed? Let's just assume it's 10 or fewer, okay? So he's within the law. It's not about breaking the law. It's about really stopping the spread of the disease. So when you, and you're talking about the optics of it and how Ezekiel Elliott shows up in it. So Stephen A., I'm trying to think of what was on his mind. Let's assume the best. Let's not assume the worst and think that, and assume that he does think it's a big deal, Dak, and wants to be responsible. What's on his mind? Why get people who aren't in your nuclear family together in the same room who don't have to be, right? And then I think maybe, you know, who do you think of as family? That makes a difference. So, for example, I have 3 little girls. I think nothing about being around them, right? We're in the same house. So that's fine. But sometimes is your cousin immediate family? No, not exactly. Yeah, but you see them all the time. Maybe you live together. Is your teammate immediate family? You have to draw the line. Because the problem is, since every human being can be a vector for the disease, and it's highly contagious, and the people are asymptomatic. They don't know that they're sick while they're contagious. If there are, let's say, 10 people in that house, and they all go back to their actual families, and there are 3 or 4 people at least in each house, then the chance for infection spreads, it raises, and it spreads. This is the issue with it. It spreads geometrically or exponentially, right? It's not just that you're thinking, well, I won't catch it or this other person won't catch it. Someone may not know they have it, and then they spread it to everyone when they go home, right? Whoever's in that house. So this completely defeats the purpose of quarantine, and as much as I hate to get in someone's business like this, again, counting fries and figuring out how, but just look at that. And TMZ rarely gets it wrong. That's not distancing. Are those people all in the same nuclear family? Then they really shouldn't. Stephen A., there are over 13,000 confirmed cases of coronavirus in Texas as of yesterday. Over 13,000 cases as of yesterday, and it's likely underreported.
Well, you're going the route of being optimistic, and I'm going the route of being real. Let's take the real here into consideration, Max Kellerman. The chances are TMZ wasn't in the man's house, okay? Which means that somebody who showed up to the party decided to take the photo, all right, and disseminate it. That's number one. Number 2, clearly they have no regard for the public seeing that and recognizing that they wanted everybody to know. Excuse me, look at what we're doing here. So somebody at that party was idiotic enough to disseminate that kind of photo to sort of encourage people to at least admire what they're doing or to emulate their behavior. Those are the kind of things that Dak Prescott is responsible for, since he's the one who purportedly threw the party. And then when you take into account a sports league and what have you, and in terms of the challenges that everybody is facing, you're going to have millions upon millions of people out there accusing anybody who wants to engage in any kind of activity of being tone deaf at this particular moment in time. If you are Dak Prescott, that's the antithesis of what the NFL wanted put out there about one of its players. It's stupid. He's not stupid. He's a highly intelligent young man. But this was a very stupid thing to do. And there is no way around that. And it's a damn shame that none of them appeared to be sensitive to the times that we're living in right now. We've got family members. I've got 2 daughters here with me. I'm sitting there. I went to see my sisters. I had to sit up there and bring my sister stuff. And I didn't go inside. And my sisters, for crying out loud. Because guess what? There's times that we're living in, and I got a brother-in-law that has the coronavirus. So these are the kind of things that are going on in this world, and for people's unwillingness to adhere to any kind of rules or regulations or to be that stupid, it's senseless to me. It's selfish, to be quite honest.
Let me tell you,
it really is.
I agree with the selfish part, Stephen A., because it's been widely reported that unless you have some underlying immune deficiency condition, or you're unhealthy, you're unlikely to have a serious hospitalization or worse from this unless you're over a certain age. But you see 30 and 40-year-olds all the time now dying of coronavirus. I mean, it's being reported. So, but that aside, even if you take that first premise as true, then younger, healthy people feel comfortable getting together. The point is, it's not for you. The reason you social distance is not mainly to keep yourself safe if you're young and healthy. It's to keep others safe, the most vulnerable among us.